Hi, welcome back to the channel. If you've been following my videos for a while, you'll know that I always try to put a smile on everybody's face. Maybe the content that I'm delivering isn't always the most uplifting, but I always try to leave you with something that makes you feel warm-hearted, maybe puts a little smirk on your face. And in the early days when I was making my videos, I looked for press articles, stories that I thought were amusing, that would give you that little bit of fat satisfaction and leave you thinking, yeah, that was quite good fun. And I thought it was worth revisiting some of those stories. So in today's video, I'll share with you some of them. And please accept my apologies in advance for the quality of the audio and the video here. These were in the early days when I was making videos, so I didn't have a proper camera, I didn't have the proper lighting, I didn't even have a microphone in some of these videos. But I think the stories are quite amusing and hopefully you'll enjoy it and it will put a smile on your face. And finally today, I wanted to share the story of possibly the most incompetent attempt at financial fraud I have ever heard of in my life. Now, this story comes from Ireland and relates to a 66-year-old man called Peter Doyle. Now, Peter Doyle is a pensioner who collects his pension every week from the local post office. Now, Mr. Doyle was reportedly not feeling very well recently, so he sent his nephew to the post office to collect his pension for him. But the post office official said that he wasn't allowed to give it to him and that he would have to come in person. So Mr. Doyle's nephew and his friend decided to help him go collect his pension from the post office. However, it appears that Mr. Doyle had died sometime before that. So Mr. Doyle's nephew and his friend were seen carrying his body with a jumper wrapped around his face and a hat on his head. And they dragged this body all the way into the post office. Now, unfortunately, when they got there was a large queue. So they dragged him all the way past the queue and his feet were dragging along the ground. And then they asked the cashier to give him his pension. Now, the cashier saw that he was obviously dead and refused to make the payment. An ambulance subsequently arrived and took the body away. And it's been reported that potentially he may have been dead for up to 2 days. When interviewed about this matter, the two gentlemen who helped Mr. Doyle into the post office said that they believed that he'd had a heart attack on the way to the post office and that he just went a bit slumpy once he got in there. So quite an unusual story, and if you've ever seen the film Weekend at Bernie's and thought that that could never happen, well, you were wrong, because it has actually happened in Ireland in the last week. And finally today I wanted to share the story of a Florida man who found himself in a situation that I'm sure we've all been in, but his solution wasn't really the sort of thing that I would have chosen to done and didn't really work out very well for him. So one of the big impacts of the pandemic for all of us is the fact that we have to wear face masks when we go into shops, travel on trains and buses and planes. And I'm sure we've all been there. You arrive at the doors and you suddenly realise that you've forgotten your mask. You haven't got it in your pocket. What are you going to do? So often you see people pulling their t-shirts up over their face and mouth, or if they've got a scarf, they pull that round their face, or just holding their hand to their face. But a guy called Adam Jen decided to take a different approach. So he boarded a United Airlines plane with a small red ladies' G-string on his face. So after the initial amusement, the staff approached Mr. Jen and asked him to remove his G-string, which is not something that you hear said to people on aeroplanes very often. He refused to remove his G-string, which is not a phrase that I use very often, I have to say. And after a small argument, Mr. Jen was asked to leave the plane. Now, as I said, we've all been there. We've all found ourselves in that difficult situation when you haven't got the face mask to hand. But when I put my hand in my pocket, I don't pull out a lady's G-string and think, oh, that's fine. That will do just the job. Perfect. So I'm not quite sure where Mr. Jen got his G-string from, whether it was in his pocket or on his person, or whether he asked one of the other passengers to lend him one, whether it was clean or used. I've no idea the answer to any of these questions. But when interviewed after the event, Mr. Jen said that he was an activist and he compared himself to Rosa Parks. Now, Rosa Parks is an iconic figure in US history. She was one of the people who contributed to the changes in racial inequality in the USA. Mr. Jen is fighting for his right to wear ladies' underwear on his face on planes. Now, I'm not sure whether those two people are really comparable. I don't think we'll look back in 10 or 15 or 100 years' time and be talking about how Adam Jen changed the world for all of us. I don't think I'll be seeing people sitting next to me on a plane wearing a G-string or tighty whities or any of that sort of thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure I don't want to be seeing those sort of people sitting next to me, to be honest. So hopefully the movement won't pick up any pace. Hopefully we won't see Adam Jen on the TV talking about the breakthroughs that he's made and how we can all wear our boxer shorts on our heads every time that we travel around the world. And finally today, I wanted to talk about pay. Now, this is an issue that affects all of us. We all want to be paid more. We all like to grumble about the fact that we're not being paid enough and we're doing a great job and it's not fair that I only got a small pay rise. And if you're in a job where you get paid a bonus, you'll be hoping every year that you're going to get a really good bonus. You're going to get that really big payout that you've always dreamed about. And if your boss asks you, how much do you think you should be paid? It's a very difficult question to answer. Some people are quite conservative. Some people are a bit shy. Some people don't really like to ask for more money. So it's always a bit of a quandary as to what do you say if somebody says to you, how much do you think you should be paid? But that isn't a problem for Marcelo Claude. This guy is a rock star banker. He's a legend and he's not afraid to put his money where his mouth is. Now, you've probably never heard of Marcelo Claude, but this guy is a Bolivian national who's been living a rock star lifestyle in the world of finance. So at his 40th birthday, he had Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony perform. And he likes to be seen rubbing shoulders at sporting events with the likes of David Beckham. And if you're looking for a new mantra or philosophy in life, then look no further than Marcelo Claude, who recently tweeted, "Never settle for less than what you are worth. That's the day you stop believing in yourself." Now, Mr. Claude was hired by SoftBank to sort out some of their problems. And most recently, he's been involved with WeWork. And WeWork is a massive investment that SoftBank made that was due to float in New York, but the IPO got pulled. And they're now looking at a major loss situation. Now, Marcelo Claude likes to negotiate a good deal for himself. So his salary is currently sitting at $3 million per year. And in 2020, he got paid a performance-related bonus of $14 million. So his total take-home in 2020 was $17 million. But that was nowhere near good enough for Marcelo Claude. He was disgusted with that sort of return. And it's reported that he negotiated a golden parachute of $180 million for his WeWork transaction. So a golden parachute is basically a payoff that you're guaranteed if you ever leave the company. So he knows that if he gets forced out of SoftBank, he's got a guaranteed $180 million waiting for him. So as I said, Marcelo Claude wasn't very happy with his $14 million bonus. So this year he upped the ante and demanded that he needed to be paid $2 billion. Now, not surprisingly, the SoftBank board decided not to give him a $2 billion bonus, and he has now left the company. But as I mentioned, he's got that $180 million golden parachute waiting for him. So my view here is that Marcelo Claude probably just wanted to up the ante to get his $180 million and go and find another job paying him even more money. And he probably sat at home and thought, what's the most outrageous figure that I'm prepared to put onto the table to see what these guys do about it? So $2 billion seems like a pretty outrageous figure to me. That would have made him one of the highest paid people in the world. Not quite in Elon Musk's bracket, but getting there. Anyway, hats off to Marcelo Claude. He just increased his bonus from $14 million last year to $180 million this year. So good luck to him.